Hey guys, how's it going? So, I, sorry, I'm messing with the music here. I've decided to start a podcast. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm really excited for future stuff that's gonna happen. I'm sorry, I'm really disorganized right now. I kind of just did this on a whim, just because I have a passion for K-pop and a passion for expressing my opinion and listening to the opinion of others and melding those two things together and creating a safe space for people to interact with one another and have a conversation off of Twitter or off of YouTube or Instagram or wherever, where it seems like there's a lot of negativity going on in fandoms and whatever. I just see a lot of negativity that makes me want to log off social media all the time. There's people fighting each other for no reason and voting and things that just really don't mean a whole lot. So I wanted to start this podcast to kind of just express myself and bring my views and my ideas to you guys. And hopefully if you listen and you like them, great. If you don't like them, that's great too, because this is a place where we can have a discussion or a disagreement and talk about it and come to a healthy conclusion that everyone can be happy with. So a little bit about me. My name's Megan. I'm starting this podcast. It's going to be called Coffee&Kpop, two of the things that keep my lifeblood going. It's going to be one of those things that you can pop on your morning drive and listen, or at night when you're just chilling around, or when you're just bored and want to listen, or if you want to talk to me via Patreon or YouTube or wherever, and we can have a conversation and hopefully have some really interesting things to talk about. A little bit about me before I get into my first kind of podcast topic. I've been into K-pop since 2009, so it is my 10-year reunion this year, in June actually. And I couldn't imagine my life without K-pop in it. I've been able to meet my best friends through K-pop. Let me backtrack a little. I'm currently 27 years old, so I've been enjoying K-pop since I was 17, and I can honestly say K-pop is one of those things that has truly saved my life, and I feel like I want to save that major topic for a later thing about like mental health and self-love and stuff like that, because I feel like music is a really important way we can heal, and I want that to be, in this place, to be a safe space for us to interact with each other and, whatever we want to get into, whatever topics we want to talk about, girl groups, boy groups, BTS, NCT, controversies, deaths, anything we want to talk about in this space. I plan on having friends of mine come and be guests with me, and enjoy talking about K-pop together. I've been lucky enough to find a group of friends who are around my age, who we all share different values and opinions, but similar at the same way, and we have an ability to talk about our differences in a safe way and not yell at each other or scream at each other like I see so many people on social media doing, like I touched on before. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I am multi-fandom, and I know that pisses people off sometimes. That will be another podcast later on about multi-fandom versus solo stans or single fandoms or whatever you want to call people. That being said, multi-fandom, BTS, no cliches aside, has been my ultimate group since 2014. I stand them at debut, and I stand them, but I wasn't like super, they weren't my top group. At the time, my top group was SHINee. And then 2014, they kind of overcame that just because they started to really become more popular, and I loved the messages they were bringing to fans. And 5 years ago was a different time. There was a lot less westernization, which is another podcasts that I want to get into later on as well. So sneak peeks for future podcasts. But yeah, I've loved them since 2014. I've loved them since 2013, but 2014 was the year that I really got into them. But I love GOT7, I love A-Pink, I love NCT, Ateez. I have so many groups that I love, and I want to talk about each one of them individually, I think, as well, and then collectively, kind of overall, and share with you guys my favorite playlists, or what I'm listening to currently, and kind of create a vibe here that can be a safe, cool place for us to just talk and hang. So that's a little bit about me. I love K-pop. It's just one of those music genres like Latin pop and kind of pop, but not as much American pop. One of those genres that just I really have identified with, even though I can't fully speak Korean. I am self-taught. And I'm really at a beginner level. I can get around and say certain things that I've just practiced over and over, but I have a respect for Korean culture first. I fell in love with Korean culture before I fell in love with K-pop, and then it kind of blossomed from there, because once you fall in love with a different culture than your own, you start exploring other avenues, and that's kind of one other thing I want to talk about later on too. But yeah, I fell in love with some of the traditions and cultures associated with Koreans, and then I got introduced to Korean pop, and it kind of blossomed from there, and now I travel all over the country going to K-pop events. I'm actually headed out to LA in two or 3 days to go see BTS for the 5th time or something, I don't know, which I'm super excited for. But I really just feel like if K-pop wasn't in my life, I don't know where I would be. It has been able for me to create a business around it. Some people that might be listening, I'm going to post this on my social media, as they buy decals from me. I own a shop called K-Pop Shop Designs. I make decals for light sticks, and cars and laptops, and I also make wristbands and all sorts of stuff that is K-pop related, and I've been able to be creative with it and create my own little niche of what I love to do. And later on, I'm gonna get my Patreon up and going, and for all of you that are still here listening even after 8-ish minutes, some of my Patreon benefits for people who donate to my Patreon will be goodie bags of free assorted decals from me, that I can send to you. Hopefully, I'll have to look. I'm new to Patreon, so I'm figuring it out, and new to the podcasting thing, but I'm gonna want to send decals to people who pledge certain amounts of money, but we'll figure that all out as it comes. So anyway, I want to kind of transition into what I want to talk about for a little while. And recently, I went to go see Ateez in New York. I have a really good friend who lives in New York, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to kind of mooch off of her if I go out there for K-pop concerts, so I don't have to necessarily spend money on a hotel or something, and I'm very grateful for that. And I didn't really know what to expect with Ateez, because if I'm totally honest, I watched them debut, but they weren't really on my radar yet, because I was more invested in NCT and kind of following them, and BTS of course, and I think Twice was around, had a comeback around then as well, somewhere in there. So there was other groups that I was more into at the time, so I was aware of them, but I didn't really pay attention to Pirate King at all. At first, I liked the song, but I didn't really get into it yet. And then when the Hala Hala era came out, I fell so hard that I literally can't even explain to you what happened. I just became obsessed with it, and I learned all their names, and learned I started watching their variety stuff, and just really started falling in love with them. And it was hard for me to pick a bias. Wooyoung drew me in at first, and because my bias in BTS is Jimin, and there is no secret that Wooyoung and Jimin have a lot of similarities visuals wise, and Jimin was who my bias was the first day I saw BTS, and he has continued to be my bias all the way through 5 years. And Wooyoung just drew my eye first. Like, I saw him and I was like, wow, you are a beautiful specimen of human being. And so I was like super intrigued. And then as I got into the group more, I started to fall in love with San. And as I'm sitting here at my desk, I'm like looking up. I have a huge, big old like hutch desk, and I have K-pop photos and like group photos, and I have pictures of San like all scattered around now, like Namjoon and Shonu and EXO and like all this fun stuff. And my light sticks and stuff. But San really got me. He's that kind of puppy dog personality that I love, which is why like I biased Jimin and like Jackson and GOT7, and just I love that like happy playful personality, and just but also at the same time like super masculine and sexy when they're like on stage or performing, or you know, like there's just like a duality. I loved idols that have duality in their personality, not necessarily like a 4D personality, which I love too, but with male idols, like they have like a sexy side to them, but then they have a sweet side, and I really am drawn to people like that. And idol or not, men, like my ideal guy is kind of a duality. Like they can be really really sweet, but then also really really sexy at the same time. So they really just kind of have snatched me. And anyway, long story short, I flew out to New York. I have serious travel anxiety, so flying alone for me is always kind of a struggle. And I do it all the time because I'm fortunate enough to make money where I can go see these concerts and stuff, and I'm very lucky that I can do that. And I was very fortunate to go to this one. Granted, I'm in school full time, so I've been kind of dipping out on school to go to K-pop stuff, but you know, you only live once, right? And I got to New York, and we were out running around, and I've met a bunch of girls who are now my friends that are also Ateez fans, and we met up in Chinatown, and then we went out for drinks and karaoke, and the night before the concert, which was honestly a bad idea because I was super 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 hungover for the day of the concert, and it was a long day. I'm so glad I got over it by the time the concert started, because if I'm being totally honest, like I've seen BTS 4 times, I think, not including LA, and I've seen that they're pretty much the only group that I've traveled to see. Oh, and I've seen Monsta X in Chicago. I live in Kansas, so I have to travel anywhere else besides here to go somewhere. Any of my Midwestern fans who actually listen to this, you'll understand the pain. If you don't live in Chicago or Dallas, they don't think anywhere in between there exists for some reason. I'm working on it, but it'll probably never happen. Anyways, so I went to see Monsta X in Chicago in 2017 with my friend, and that was like one of the best concerts I've ever been to as well. K-pop concerts are just another level. That's one other thing I want to talk about in a separate podcast. But back to Ateez. So we got there. We were lucky enough because they had like a draw thing where you got like a line number, and then you had to line up in that order, which the fact that they trusted fans, we did it well, but the fact that they just let fans do that and not police it at all just made me really mad. But we were 50 and 51 in the VIP tickets, so we were really close. We ended up getting barricade, which I've never been barricade in a GA pit before. I've been in the middle of the sea at BTS concerts and nearly passed out, and like I had a black eye the last time I was in pit at BTS because I was elbowed in the face by a fan side, or I don't know if it was a fan side and it was a Korean fan that was like climbing over people to get to the barricade, and she like nailed me in the eye, and I had a bruised eye. It was really bad. It went like the bruising went away, but like it was kind of red and swollen, and it was just a mess. Anyways, we got barricade, and I was like giddy with excitement because this, you know, Ateez is still fairly new, so you're gonna have more interaction, and like you're not gonna get crushed necessarily. And we were like on the edge of the barricade. People went right to the center, and I was like, those poor people are gonna get crushed. So me and my friend Muse, like, we went to the side, and we were, like, on the very, very side, but it worked out because we were close to the water if we needed water bottles from security, and then if we needed to, like, beam out of there, or, like, we needed to help get someone out, or, like, we needed help, we could grab somebody, which actually worked out really well, because there was this young girl, like, a 15-year-old girl behind me the entire time that I'm a motherly person. Like, she started kind of passing out behind me, and I got freaked out that she was going to pass out. And, like, I'm a doctor's kid, so I'm one of those people that I always watch on a swivel, because you never know what's going to happen around you. And so she kind of tapped me at one point and was like, I'm really hot. Like, she was so tiny. And I was like, come up here with me. So I, like, brought her up in between me and my friend. And I was like, get some air. We'll get you some water. And then she kind of backed off again. And I guess her friend was behind her somewhere. And I was like, just stay right here so I can keep an eye on you. And I kept, every about 20 minutes, I would turn around and check on her. And there was one point she was gone. And I was like, oh my God. I was, like, panicking. Like, where's this girl? And then she was on the other side of me. So it was okay. But so long story short, the concert was absolutely fantastic. I became a full-fledged Ateez that night. Like, it was one of the best concerts. And I went to the Red Bullet tour for BTS when they were kind of that small, and that was an amazing concert, but because there was a lot of fan interaction and you were really close. But this was something else. Their dancing skill and their stage presence, like Mingi's stage presence, Songhwa's stage presence, Yoonho's stage presence, I literally was in shock. Like, there was points where, like, people were, like, freaking out, and I couldn't even concentrate because my brain was in overload. Like, this is so good. And even when they didn't do, like, their songs, they were covering, like, their dance stuff when they were doing their dance troupe stuff when they were KQ Fellas, which is where I first discovered them. They did those dances, and it was even better in person, and I think we can post pictures, like, on the thumbnail for the podcast, and I'll just have to throw some pictures up. I'm going to put this on YouTube as well, because I know nobody's going to be on my Patreon quite yet, since I'm still new, so I'll throw it up on YouTube and put some pictures. But it was just one of the coolest experiences, aside from the fact that it was poorly managed. So the capacity, this is the kind of bad part of it. The concert was great. The boys were fantastic. But the management of the concert was absolutely horrible. The venue was capacity. I think there's somebody took a picture at one point and posted it. It was like 400 or 600 people. And there were at least 1,200 people in that small little space. There were so many people, in fact, that they were out the door, and they had to... Some people bought tickets, like, up on this tiny little balcony, which actually their staff was standing up there, and they just had to push people up to the top because they couldn't even get in the door. So these people got to go up and have a vantage point view, which was lucky them, and I was like, this is too much. And, like, even Ateez was like, it's hot in here, and, like, girls were passing out within 10 minutes of even standing in there, and, like, we were in there a long time because we were the first 50 people to get in. So we were standing in there for, I don't know, an hour or so, an hour and a half, and it was really fine at first, and then it got hot, and there were times that I'm usually pretty good. I know how to stay hydrated. We drank a ton of water that day. Like, we were lucky we could ask for water bottles, so I had like 8 or 9 water bottles and didn't have to pee at all, just to give you an idea of how dehydrated everyone was. Imagine being in the center of that and not being, and especially, like, I'm 5'4", I'm short as hell, and imagine being my height or shorter in the middle of all that. I couldn't even. Like, there were girls that were really, like, that 15-year-old girl, she was maybe 4'11", and I was like, how are you even breathing? Like, there was so much going on. And just, it was not well managed. They didn't even, like, they had the number system, but there was no management there to, like, reinforce it, so the fans just had to do it. And we did a really, really good job. And actually, it was funny, like, the management staff of the venue, like, got outshadowed by just the fans who were willing to step up and be like, you need to move now or we're gonna remove you, or like you need to back up. But like the staff was like almost scared. I don't know if they just didn't expect or like what the deal was, but they just did not show up. Like, I don't know, it was weird. And like, I don't know, it was just one of the weirdest. I mean, I've had that kind of stuff happen before where it's like you have to number yourself, but I've never been like a pre-queue number thing, and then you have to like trust that people are lining up in the same way, and then it's like, how do you trust that? But I don't know. Overall, like, if I give it like out of a 10 out of 10 rating, I would say the concert, like the actual concert and the singing and the dancing and the boys, 10 out of 10. Concert management, 3 out of 10. Because we left that concert luckily not had passed out, not sweating like crazy or any of that. But then after the concert, there's of course a high touch, and they oversold the VIP by a lot. I mean, there were probably 800 people VIP, and they claimed that only 300 people were VIP at one point, which was bullcrap if you ask me, because there were not only 300 people. And then the high touch at the end, you know, none of it was managed well. And I don't mean to like crap on one specific thing, but it was like repeated. Every venue that I saw people complaining that it was just all not great. And I don't know whose fault it was, and it's probably not just one entity's fault. I don't know if it's just my music taste that does that, or if it's KQ Entertainment that also does that. It's more up to the my music taste thing, and I get wary of seeing groups that are under my music taste just because their venue management is not the greatest in the past. But they're also a really good way to bring groups to the United States that wouldn't have a chance because other management companies just aren't quite sure about them yet. They don't want to risk the money on them quite yet. And I mean, they sold out their tour, so whoever didn't pick them up is missing out. But I know when they come back, I'm praying they'll have better venues. They're going to KCON, which is awesome. So I'm debating on going to that, because they've kind of become my new groupie group, like BTS is. I don't know. I can't. I have so many good things to say about it, but then I also think about the negatives that come up, and that's what this podcast is all about. I'm gonna wrap it up here in the next couple minutes, but I had some of the most fun in the world. I think it's because I went with one of my best friends, and we had a blast, and like both of us came out of that concert and we're just like, we were walking back to a place to find an Uber, just like in shock of like how good that was, and how we were just like, this is of a smaller group and a smaller concert, like it's one of the better ones we'd ever been to. And she is lucky. She lives in New York, in that area, in New Jersey technically, and so she's able to go to a lot of different concerts. And she was even like, this is one of the better ones I've been to. And of course, we both love them, and now we share pictures of things and Instagram stuff together all the time. So it's pretty fun. But yeah, I mean, I would say like with stuff like that, I mean, it was affordable for me because I work and I have money that comes in every month and I'm able to do that stuff. But concerts like that, like small groups that come that have smaller venues, I always say, even if you don't necessarily stand the group or even like the group, sometimes it's fun to go because you never know, you're gonna get better interactions. Like for example, I'm going to BTS in LA on the 5th, and it's gonna be at the Rose Bowl, which in a full capacity of football games that I've been to, it's like 90-some thousand people. It'll probably be like 75,000 people when they cut off those like ending stuff for the actual like stage area. But still, you know, unless you're front row on the floor seated seats, you're not going to get a whole lot of interaction from them because they just can't see you. But like for me, even if I was 3 or 4 rows back with Ateez, like they're still going to pay attention to you because they can see you. So that's pretty cool to think about. Like, so that would be my thing with like people who are questioning like, oh, I don't know about this group as much, but I think I might go. I'd say just if you have the money and you have the resources to go, because you never know what, like I didn't expect to stan Ateez like this as much as I did. And I think if I wouldn't have gone to the concert, I may not have experienced that, and it would not have influenced my love of them, even though I'm sure I would have grown eventually to love them even more. seeing a group live, like, changes your perspective of who they are. Like, the first time I saw BTS live, I loved them before I saw them live. Then I, like, really loved them. Same with Monsta X. I liked Monsta X before I saw them live, and then I saw them live, and I sat in the very back row of the bottom mezzanine of the Rosemont in Chicago. We were in the very, very back row. We sat next to these three amazing people, and a Korean mom and her daughter, which was really sweet. And after that concert, I was, like, hooked. I hadn't really ever listened to them, like, religiously, and I, like, on the way home on the train, I was, like, downloading the album and just listening to it nonstop. So I feel like seeing a group live is so important, and people need to take advantage of that with small groups. You know, like, I know Stray Kids is touring, NCT's here, but they're not necessarily small, because, like, they're playing the Prudential and stuff, which is actually pretty big, but then again, they got a huge following already. They've been a group for a while. Blackpink as well. But then there's VAV's touring right now. My friends just went and saw them, which I was so sad, because they're another group that I've loved for a while. Stray Kids, I said, they're coming, or they're here. And then, like, Dean's gonna be here for an event, I think. And there's just so many different opportunities people can have, that even though it's a smaller venue and it's maybe not your favorite artist, you know, like, take that risk and just go see. You never know. Like, you're gonna run into people and meet people you really like. You're gonna maybe find a new artist that you really like, expand your knowledge a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much all this podcast is gonna be this time around. I'm about 25 minutes in, and I feel like that's a good starting one. More podcasts are gonna come soon. I appreciate if you go on to my Patreon. It's Coffee&Kpop Podcasts, and join, and you can pledge as little or as much as you want. Support me if you want to hear more. I'm going to start a perks list. I know it's going to be, like, there'll be a decal grab bag that I personally make the decals myself, and I'm going to figure out if I can do, like, personalized ones, or if, I'm going to do, like, assorted grab bags. There'll be, hopefully, giveaways. I've got extra albums floating around that I want to do giveaways for. We can start doing, like, after party podcasts, and I'm going to do reactions and all sorts of things. I want to just kind of make this a fun space that I can, really get to know people who want to listen and enjoy talking with me. So I'd enjoy it. If you're watching this or listening to this on YouTube, like, favorite, and subscribe. Share it wherever you can. Head over to my Patreon. The link will be in the description. I'll also link my Etsy shop if you do want to go check out what I have. And see, like, if you donate to my Patreon, what you might get. And that's it. So thanks, guys. I really have enjoyed you listening to me, and I'm glad that you're here along the ride. So thanks. This has been Megan with Coffee and K-Pop, signing off.